Welcome to the LDN radio show, brought to you by the LDN Research Trust. I'm your host, Linda Elsiegood. I have an exciting lineup of guest speakers who are LDN experts in their field. We will be discussing low dose naltrexone and its many uses in autoimmune diseases, cancers, etc. Thank you for joining us. Today I'd like to welcome our guest Alison from the United States, who uses LDN for chronic fatigue syndrome. Thank you for joining us, Alison.
Thank you for having me, Linda.
So, can you tell us, when did you first experience your symptoms?
I was 30 years old, and that was 30 years ago. I'm now 60. I was perfectly healthy, energetic mom of 2 young children, and I started with kind of like flu-like symptoms, mono-type symptoms. I had to stop working. I was very sick. I'd keep getting infections, and doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong, so they just said it was chronic fatigue syndrome and sent me on my way. Basically, I was mostly housebound, constantly sick, in and out of emergency rooms with symptoms. I was pretty miserable for a very long time.
Okay, so could you explain to us, what a typical day was like, how you had to get through from getting up in the morning to going to bed at night?
Yes, back then I had 2 young children that were in school, so I would have to sleep about 16 hours a night, get up to send my kids off to school, then go back to sleep again for a nap for a few hours. And then my kids would come home, we'd do the homework. I'd have to sit. I was always kind of out of breath from having very low energy. I would try to make a simple, quick little dinner for them, get them all set for bed, and then sit and lay around watching TV for a few hours, and then go back to bed and start all over again. We would have people invite us over for parties or get-togethers, and I couldn't go. My husband would go without me at times or just stay home with me. And that went on for many, many years.
Were you given anything in those 30 years to try and help you?
I was given some amitriptyline to help with sleep. My sleeping issues were very bad. I felt like I was sleeping, but I'd wake up unrefreshed. So they had given me amitriptyline to help with sleep, but I still felt the same. Nothing really much changed. And that was all they had to offer. I would seek out integrative doctors, acupuncture, massage, all types of things to try to do. The problem with that, I needed someone to take me because I couldn't drive myself. I was so weak, and I would also get disoriented and not know where I am at times. So it was hard, but I tried so many things. Nothing seemed to help much at all. Sometimes I get a little boost of energy if it was an herbal medication, like an antiviral, but it never stayed. It never lasted. So,
do you know what triggered it in the first instance?
I don't know what triggered it. It's very strange because I was really fine. I was really good. I was working part-time. I was going to the gym every day. I was very, very active. I needed maybe 6 hours sleep a night. I mean, I was on top of my game. And then all of a sudden, I just felt like I got the flu. We thought I had the flu, but the flu never went away. A month later, the doctor thought it would be gone. And it's like, I'm still very sick. And he said, no, all your blood work shows good. I think it's anxiety. So,
So
it was not anxiety.
A lot of people, when they have chronic fatigue syndrome, the chronic fatigue is only part of the problems that they have. Did you experience any other symptoms?
I did. The symptoms that came with the chronic fatigue syndrome was a condition called dysautonomia, where some people get POTS, where your blood pressure will go up when you stand, or your heart rate goes up, something like that. But I had where my blood pressure would drop when I stand, but my heart rate wouldn't really go up high. So I would just feel like I'm going to pass out. And there's times I did pass out. So that condition came at the same time, and often I hear people with chronic fatigue syndrome say they have that condition as well. And so we also get palpitations, irregular heartbeats, and there's a medication to take for that. It doesn't always help, but that's also another condition that came with it.
And have you found that you're ultra sensitive to drugs now?
Yes. As soon as I got sick with the chronic fatigue syndrome, for some reason, I've all of a sudden been very sensitive to any medications and very, very sensitive to chemical smells, even smells that aren't super strong. I actually get dizzy from them. And sometimes I feel like I'm going to pass out if I even just walk into a store and I smell clothes. I'll smell the new clothes smell, where other people don't smell anything and they're fine. So it limits me even going into stores.
Okay. And I've had some people as well who experience sensory issues, in as you've mentioned smell, but where, they find that their eyes are ultra sensitive and they have to wear glasses. And if it's too bright, they have to cover their eyes. If they're travelling in a car and they've got sunglasses on, but it's still too bright, they have to literally put something over their eyes. Have you experienced any of that?
Yes, I definitely, when I'm even in my house, I shut lights off a lot. They often bother me. The sun bothers me a lot. I wear sunglasses every time I'm out. The lights in the stores bother me even. And I also have issues with not just that, but hearing people talking, sensory overload as far as just talking. If people are around me and there's too much for like an hour of talking, I need to go into another room and feel like I need to just have quiet. And I will relapse with symptoms if I spend a few hours like on holidays with people and I'm sitting on a couch relaxing and everyone's talking, having fun, and I'm talking, and then I crash because of the sensory overload.
Mm-hmm. I don't have chronic fatigue syndrome. I have MS, but I have those same issues. I'm always wearing sunglasses, and I also don't have the ability in a crowded environment where it's really noisy. Normally people can isolate sound so they can just hear the people they're with and they can shut the background out. I'm not able to do that. I hear everything very acutely, and it is information overload. And it's very hard to explain to somebody that's not experienced that, how it is mentally draining, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating because you want to be around people and have someone visit and talk, but then sometimes it's just not worth it.
So how did you manage to find LDN in the end, and how long ago was that?
So 7 years ago, I was on Facebook groups for chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, and things like that. And I started hearing people talk about this LDN that was helping them. So I would listen and try to, follow it for a while and see if it's really something that stuck and if people, were still getting benefits. And I kept seeing it. So at that point, I was seeing an integrative doctor who was doing everything for me, and I wasn't feeling any better, and I was traveling 2 hours and spending a lot of money. And so I said, I'm going to ask him about LDN. He should know about it. Sure enough, he knew what it was, and he said he would give me the prescription for it, but he wanted to start me out at 4.5. And I told him, no, I want to start at 0.5 because that's what I see a lot of the people with chronic fatigue syndrome needed to start at, or they would feel sicker. So let's just start me low and slow. And we did that. And it was a great thing.
So when you first started at being such a low dose, did you notice any introductory side effects?
I did. That first night I had insomnia where I felt like I was up most of the night, and I was some nauseous. And that went on for a few days, and I was looking on some of the sites for people's what they had for advice if that happens, and they were saying maybe take a couple crackers at night at first. So I did that, and probably 5 days like that, and then I was fine. But after the first night, even though I had insomnia, I felt a change in my body that first day. I felt, and it wasn't placebo because it kept staying like that, I felt a lift of brain fog. I had energy that day. I felt a feeling of well-being that I haven't felt in so many years.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought placebo for sure. But no, it stayed from day one.
Mm-hmm. So if you had to rate your quality of life prior to LDN on a score of 1 to 10, 10 being the best, what would it have been?
It was, I would say, a 1 to 2. There were often days I really thought I was dying. I was so severely sick, and I always had inflammation around my heart and my lungs and pleurisy, pericarditis. I was in bed. So on my better day, probably was a 2.
Mm-hmm. And where are you today?
Today, I am at a 7, I would say. Compared to the average healthy 60-year-old, I would say I'm a 7.
Mm-hmm. And what would you have said you were after the first year of taking LDN, if you can remember that far back?
I was still a 7.
Okay.
I was a 7 right away. I was right away. My life changed. That's the stunning thing. But then what I did is I said, let me go up in dose so I can get even better. And I did. I worked my way up to 3 milligrams, and I started having very bad side effects. So I started getting anxiety and just feeling sicker. I was having less energy. So I said, let me just go off for a couple months. I just need to clean myself out, maybe get that high number out of me and start over again. And that's what I did. And so I've been on the 0.5 for a few years now.
So it's that low still? You haven't increased it at all?
No more. Nope.
Well, isn't that amazing? Because that would be like less than a grain of sugar of naltrexone. Very
it really is
minuscule. Yes, exactly. That is amazing. So did your naturopathic doctor put you on supplements and an anti-inflammatory diet? What are you doing to supplement the LDN?
Well, I don't see him anymore. I have someone closer to home that I see, but who's giving me the LDN now is my neurologist.
Okay.
And I've recommended a lot of people to go to him. He's very knowledgeable in it, and he's awesome. But as far as other things is, I eat pretty healthy. I eat mostly like a Mediterranean diet. I drink a lot of water. I take a very good daily supplement, a good quality one. And then a couple other, like vitamin D, a couple other vitamins. Not much anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I go to the gym twice a week for resistance training. I walk. I have a pretty healthy way of living. I've always been like that. So it's not hard for me.
Well, it sounds as though it's done amazingly well for you. The hearing and the smell and the sight, has that improved any, or is that still the same as it was before LDN?
It has improved, but I still have those issues.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still chemical sensitive. And yeah, definitely the chemicals, the smells, and the sensory overload with people talking and light, but it is better. It's definitely not as bad as it was.
Mm-hmm. So what would you say to other people with chronic fatigue syndrome who might think they've tried absolutely everything and this was just another fad?
Oh, no, please do yourself a favor and just try it. Don't be afraid. I know the sensitivities to medications is so scary. I've been there, and I'm allergic to so many things. But this low dose of just a couple side effects of maybe a little nauseous and insomnia for a little bit is so worth it. I have some life back. I'm not cured. I still relapse if I push myself, but my quality of life is so much better. Who wouldn't want to live from a 1 to a 7 on a scale of 1 to 10? That it really has changed my life, and I want it for everybody. That's why I'm very shy, I guess we'd say, and to speak to you even is hard for me, but I don't want people to miss out on this because it's changed my life. My family sees it. Everyone around me sees it. I have a life now, and it's worth everything. And as far as the expense, it's not expensive to have your life back. It's worth it.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much for having joined us today and sharing your experience. It's so inspirational. Thank you.
Thank you, and I'm happy to help anybody who's suffering.
Any questions or comments you may have, please email me, Linda, Linda, at ldnrt.org. I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you for joining us today. We really appreciated your company. Until next time, stay safe and keep well.